Hi, and welcome to our second Google Hangout on Air. We are from Algonquin Regional High School, and I have some awesome teachers who are going to share some best practices with you today. I'm going to introduce those teachers to you, and please feel free at any time during the presentation to ask questions. If you want to ask questions, you can use the Q&A app, and that Q&A app is located by choosing the app chooser, which would be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. And you want to open up the Q&A app, and we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. For all those Algonquin teachers who are tuning in, please know that next Tuesday at our Professional Development Day, there's going to be follow-up work sessions on all of these topics. So more details on that to follow. Oh, I guess I didn't introduce me. My name's Julie Doyle. I'm the Instructional Technology Specialist here at Algonquin. And I think without further ado, we're just going to dive right in. Our first presenter is a math teacher. His name is Brian Calnan, and he is going to be talking to you about how to use Explain Everything to give all students a voice in the classroom and beyond. So take it away, Brian.
All right, thank you, Julie. So yes, my name is Brian Calnan. This is my third year at Algonquin. Been teaching math for 9 years now, primarily algebra, but what I want to show you today is something I use in my class, but you could really use it for any class. And I've got a few ideas for how you could do that. The app that I use is called Explain Everything, and I'm going to just screen share here so you can take a look at what I'm talking about. I'm going to get this up. Can you see what I'm showing now?
Yep.
Look like the PowerPoint? All right, great. Just want to make sure. So the Explain Everything app, you can see it kind of like this light bulb with the exclamation point inside. It's $3.99 in the App Store. If you're here at Algonquin, it's already loaded on all the iPads. And I'm not specifically suggesting Explain Everything as much as any app like this. This just happens to be the app that I use. But it's anything. You could use something similar. I'm sure there are other options that are either free or at a particular cost that you could use. But this happens to be one that's available here at Algonquin, and it works for me. So to give you an idea of what it looks like, this is a screenshot from inside the app, just on the iPad, and you start with a blank canvas, or you can bring in any pre-created content. So I did a screen capture from an online textbook to bring in these graphs, these coordinate grids, and you can import other images or other media, video files, audio files. There's all sorts of different tools on the left toolbar. You can insert text, diagrams, arrows, different figures. You can zoom, you can move things, all sorts of things, but this isn't necessarily about the functionality of this particular app. It's just what can we do with it. The big part of it is this final piece at the bottom here, and it's that you can record written and spoken annotations either simultaneously or separately, and that's what I use this primarily for. It's a way to, as I say, give every student a voice as you're going through this. So to set you up with something I would do in class, and it really doesn't have to take too long, is I've got a little video clip for you here, but to give you some background, in preparing for a test on factoring and using word problems, students were broken up into groups of 3 and assigned a particular type of word problem, kind of reminiscent of the types of word problems they'd see on the test itself. And they were then told to solve the word problem and explain their work using the Explain Everything app. Now this happens to be something that they're really comfortable with, just from, it's pretty intuitive, and they've used it in some other classes. So I've taken a little snippet here of their explanation, and so you can listen. There's a couple of students from my Algebra 2 course.
So up here I just rewrote the problem, and we set it equal to 0. So what we ended up doing was subtracting 54 from 108, and that just gave us 54 again. And then we went ahead and grouped them, and we pulled out a 4x, and we were left with x minus 9. and then we pulled out a -6 from the top, and we were left also an x minus 9. There should be a nice parenthesis there. And then we went through and grouped it, and we got 4x minus 6, x minus 9. And then we went ahead and set them both equal to 0. So this first one, it comes out that x equals 3 halves, and then this one, x equals 9. But we tried to plug 9 into the equation, and it ended up giving us a negative length, and that's not possible. So x equals 9 didn't work.
So what you saw there was some really insightful stuff that you don't necessarily get if a student just hands in a homework assignment. It's particularly one thing that they saw was they went back and they saw they were missing a parenthesis. So in explaining their work, they ended up going back and double checking it and finding just some little errors in their notation. And then at the end, you saw why they discarded one of the answers. They went back into the word problem and saw that it didn't make any sense in the real-world situation there. That and the use of vocabulary that they utilized with taking out a common factor. Just a little announcement there. With that vocabulary, it's the type of thing you really get to hear them and hear their problem-solving process rather than just looking at their paper and not knowing what they meant. A big part of that then is that you can provide feedback. And so what I did with these assignments, again, there were a half dozen or so in the class, is I shared them to Google Classroom. I actually had each student just upload it straight to Google Classroom from their iPads. You see this is the file here that they didn't need to name it. But this was now available for all of their classmates. And so it took everyone, 15 minutes in class, but now they had a great collection of sample problems to help them study for the test. And I actually had them share it with the other class, so we really compiled a nice library of samples that they could look at while they were preparing. I also could give good feedback here that generalizes to everyone. And so I have, you can see the example there. And it just so happens that this was a different problem, but I mentioned that you can use cents instead of dollars. And by getting rid of decimals, it can help. That's something that's applicable to more than one problem. And if students didn't do this problem originally, they might not have realized that that was beneficial. So it's feedback that everyone can see, and I make sure that it's productive and helpful. But then they have access to it forever, or at least for the duration of the class. So some of the other benefits that I see here is just every student's accountable when they do something like this. You don't have to worry about I can only get 6 kids up to the board in this class period. Everyone gets the chance to speak. You also can present in some relative anonymity. You don't have to stand up in front of your classmates, and that can be kind of intimidating, especially in high school and middle school. That avoid that level of anxiety. Fostering good use of vocabulary is obviously important, and communication skills, being able to explain your reasoning, is such a valuable skill that is often lost. The app itself is really user-friendly. Students just get it, and you can do something relatively bare bones like what that student did. They wrote their work out ahead of time and then just use a laser pointer tool. Some people will write it as they're going, which is a little bit more complicated or difficult to get used to. But it's pretty easy to get into. Even as a teacher, if you're not too familiar with it, that's okay. The students are usually really good about getting right in there. And then it's accessible later for review. If students want to look at it another time, or if a student's out that day, they can access it at another time. So that's where I've used it, and I've just thought about some other ideas that you could possibly use it in other classes. Since I know chances are you're not a math teacher if you're watching this. It's based on percentages there. So like if you're a social studies teacher, maybe you start with an image of a map and discuss a timeline and draw changes to the map, or highlight locations of certain events along a timeline. Science, you could have a diagram perhaps of the human heart, and you can label and identify the different parts of the heart and their function, something like that. ELA, a passage or a poem, put the text on the screen, talk about it, read it, analyze it, something that will allow you to communicate without writing. so sometimes a lot easier for some of our students. Foreign language, obvious, I mean, it allows you to hear their pronunciation. Not only are they producing the language in writing if they're typing it, but they're also pronouncing it, which is very important. If you're an art teacher and you want to make a cartoon come alive, it'd be so easy. You can move little objects around, give them voices, and it could be a nice little short video that would be great. Phys ed, effects of maybe drugs in the body. Show, you know, when you smoke, this is what happens to your lungs, this is what happens to your bones, this is what happens to your muscles and nervous system. That type of thing could be really easy to do. So there's lots of different ideas that you could use this for, regardless of your subject area. Am I back on?
Yes, you are.
All right, excellent. And so that's pretty much what I've done. I found that to be really helpful. It's a super easy app. Again, I'm not saying Explain Everything is the only one that you can do it on. It's just what I use, and here at Algonquin, that's what we have available, and it's really very easy, but it gives everyone a chance to present, and then it's available for them later on.
All right. You all set there, Brian?
I'm good to go.
You're good to go. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was really informative. I have to say that I'm a big proponent of Explain Everything. It's an excellent app, very easy to use. Kids in first grade are using the app. It's user-friendly. I've seen the creator of the app, Rashawn Richards, present at a couple of conferences, and he really has designed this as such a good instructional tool, easy for students to use, but complicated enough and sophisticated enough for teachers to use to make their own screencasts. So important, though, I think, to have our kids explain what they're learning. And, you know, having taught math for a lot of years, I used to sort of get a test from a kid, they'd do the problem right, and I think, oh, they get it, great, I'm going to move on. Until then, I sort of added this way to assess students as well, to listen to them explain how they did a problem, and it was really clear to me those who really did understand it at a deeper level and those who didn't. So yeah, I completely can relate to the math example, although thank you very much for sharing all the different types of examples you could do with other disciplines.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so next up we have an art teacher. Her name is Michelle Shepard. She is going to be talking about Padlet and ThingLink, and she is going to talk about the many uses of Click Anywhere and Post Anything. So, Michelle, I will turn it over to you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Great. So I'm going to show you ThingLink and Padlet because I know that definitely talking in my PLN or Professional Learning Network last night, we were doing a lot of discussing, and there's a lot of overlap between, I think, people that are using ThingLink and people that are using Padlet. And so I'm going to show you a project that I did with ThingLink first, and how I kind of came to have that project, how I came to think that project up. So the project that I did with ThingLink was we were going to be giving to the schools, to the superintendent and other people. Can you hear me and see me okay? Yeah? See my screen?
Yeah, we can sort of see Brian. There we go.
All right, perfect. Okay, so what we were going to be doing is giving the school committee a tour of different public art sites here at Algonquin. And so we wanted to have a way, we knew that we were only going to be able to get to a few different stops on that tour. And so we have a lot of public art here at the school. And so I'm just going to hover over some of these as we go. And we have stories behind the creation of these different art pieces. And we were going to have the kids do the tour. And the kids don't necessarily know about every single piece out there. And in terms of, all of our time is precious, can we teach the kids in that short period of time everything that they want to know so that they feel comfortable talking to all these adults about these different art pieces? So I wanted to have some kind of a visual aid that people could look to if they were at the back of the tour and maybe not hearing what was going on. People could use it at a different time. And so in the amount of time that it took me to ask a friend, like, hey, do you think that there's a way that you could possibly make like an interactive thing where you could click on an area, click on a map, and have a picture come up? The friend's explanation had to do with, I'm sure you could totally write a program or a code, a command that would take an image file, and before the end of that explanation happened, I was actually able to find the app, Google it, find out if there was a way to do it. Just take a screenshot of a map of Algonquin from Google Earth, and then start posting some pictures in it just to test to see how it would work. And so when the explanation was done of like you could probably write some code using HTML, I was able to kind of turn the phone around just a few minutes after the end of that explanation and say, I think it's going to work. So what I did was I made a map in Adobe Illustrator, and then just between my iPad and the computer, took pictures of the art around the school, and then placed it onto the map so that people could see it. So this started getting my mindset going about how can you, if you have an idea about combining media in interactive ways, how can you do this without being a programmer or needing to know a lot of code? There seems to be a web app out there for a lot of different things in combining media. So I knew that some other teachers, photo teachers I knew, were using this app called Padlet. And this is my Padlet dashboard that I'm going to show you. And this is a Padlet that we did in my graphic design class, which I'll explain in a second. But I'm just going to go, I'm explaining what Padlet is. I'm just going to go to a further Padlet that I'm going to show you later on that I hope will load. And pretty much the way Padlet advertises itself is click anywhere and do anything. And so I'd seen a lot of photo teachers in my network having kids hand in their photos this way. And it's nice because it's not just putting a photo in a really tiny thumbnail on a page. You can click on it when you're viewing it, and it comes up in a preview form. And it will be kind of like Facebook. It'll be, and I apologize, it's really slow to load here, so if you'll just trust me that the photo is there. Looks really good when you can actually see it. So it takes any form that you want to, any shape. And we can have a lot of things on one bulletin board, and then we can look at them larger whenever we want to. Like I said, as long as the actual internet will load. So I'm going to go through a few different uses that I've put this to in my classroom, not just using it as a bulletin board, but in my Intro to Graphic Design class, we were getting ready to do a project about body image. So we wanted to have a conversation, kind of like Brian was saying, it allows people to participate in it with different degrees of anonymity. And so I wanted the kids, mostly young women, a few young men, to talk about body image and to sort of empathize with the people that they might be explaining to when they make a poster about body image to go along with Body Positivity Week, which we're currently in right now. So the two prompts that I gave them were describe a time when you looked in the mirror and or at a picture of yourself and liked what you saw. And the second one was describe a time when you looked in the mirror at a picture of yourself and did not like what you see. Some of these are pretty trusting answers, and some of them are pretty, like, benign. But you could really see that between the overall classroom environment and the anonymity, people are willing to share way more than when they're going to be able to, when they're going to have to raise their hand and talk in that way. So beyond just the anonymity of a bulletin board, which of course has its pros and cons, I give an assignment that incorporates a lot of choice in my photo in class, where students have to choose from a variety of different projects. Each one has a point value based on how long it takes, and they have to do a lot of experimentation. They have a lot of freedom in the classroom, but in order to hold everybody accountable to some type of standard, we have this point system. But they're also allowed to fail. So during the course of the assignment, I want them to try things, and I don't want them to be afraid of their grade and feel like they can't be successful at it because or they can't try it because they have to be successful. So in order to hand this in, previously when we would hand it in, it would be a gigantic poster of stuff. They were messy, they were hard to see, they were huge, they were a lot to carry back and forth, and so they just did not necessarily showcase the best work that the kids had come up with. And so these are fairly old pictures, but you can see in them the students are trying things that are not working out, and I want them to point out one to emphasize for their grade. I want them to have some success in there somewhere, even if it takes them a long time to get there. So the way that Padlet works for this really, really well is that when they go to hand in this collection of projects that they've made, they can emphasize which one they want me to pay the most attention to by making it larger on the Padlet. They can explain it really easily. They can explain it really neatly. And I'm not taking home a massive folder of 18 by 24 sheets of paper, which are expensive, and marker, and worrying about if things are taped securely. And so it just makes things much, much neater. And it gives us a chance, too, to talk about documenting physical artwork with a camera. So that's pretty nice. In addition to that, and again, I apologize, some of these are slow to load. This one's a fairly large Padlet, so I'm a little bit nervous that it's not going to load. It's an actual visual rubric. Because you can imagine, people are taking photos with their phones all the time. We have lots of different kinds of photos in this world. There's photojournalism, there's our memories that we want to keep, there's the picture of the price on the molding at Home Depot, and we have so many pictures even just in our devices. How do we parse out which ones are good and which ones are not good? So I have a bunch of different criteria. As long as they're doing well with some, that's what I care about the most. So I made a visual rubric. I placed the different criteria on the Padlet, and then I had each student place a photo that was successful and a photo that was unsuccessful for some of those criteria. So that way, before I give them a roll of film that they go home and shoot and takes a long time to develop and print in class, they've practiced digitally, which is much faster, and we've talked about what their successes are and what they're not. A lot of art classes do a traditional critique where one person puts their stuff on the wall. People talk about it, and for kids today, that can take them a long time, especially in an intro-level class. It might feel boring, like there's a lot of talking going on, and we really want to try to maintain a lot of action in the art classes so that they're using a different type of their learning in their brains, and this enables everybody to be posting and looking at other people's stuff, and it doesn't have to be such a traditional sequential thing. And they can look at it visually. They can kind of have the different criteria visually organized all at once. So I have the hand-in, the visual rubric, and maybe the most exciting thing that I've been able to do with Padlet that I really, really enjoy, there's the photo that I wanted to show you, is this bulletin board that I showed you before. So in my professional learning network, teachers were discussing whether this is like Pinterest or not like Pinterest, and some teachers really did not like the fact that their boards can take any shape. Right? A Pinterest board is organized and the comments are organized. Here it can take on any shape. So it's basically boundaryless. At some point there's a boundary. It's not truly infinite. But what that enables for the different things to take many shapes is that I can ask for students to not only research their inspirations and post them here, and it's very easy to post. You post a link, and just like if you're posting on Facebook or Twitter, it generates a preview to the link, a preview image. It's very, very easy. I find that Pinterest doesn't always post the exact photo that you want, and sometimes it won't post a photo at all. This seems to be a little bit more consistent. But I can also ask students, what directions are you thinking of going in? What thoughts are you having? And I can give them a space that doesn't have to fit neatly in a box. They're not running to the edge of the paper and cramming their writing, but they can organize these thoughts in more of a visual fashion. So this is one student that was thinking about doing self-portraits for her long-term project in digital photography. And this is from another student who's a little bit more linear, but she has a lot of variety mixed in. I wanted them finding inspiration from lots of different places. I wanted them finding it from poetry, from films, from books, from art, painting, photography, the internet, other sources, and I wanted them to really look at a great variety of things that they might be thinking about, whether it's crowdsourced stuff, Flickr, or whether it's serious art sites like museums. So they were able to really sync this together in a beautiful way where they can combine a ton of different inspirations, media, and actually have it look pretty cohesive and nice against this really nice wooden sort of background or whatever background they choose. You know, and it's some nice hierarchical type as a designer, but it's not crazy fonts that are just like out of this world and difficult to look at and really see their ideas. For the professional development day, a few of the things that I'll be talking about is teachers that I've talked to who are using Padlet in other ways in other schools. Some middle school teachers that I've talked to are even having the kids hand in digital videos that they've made with the iPads and animations, kind of like Brian suggested, using Padlet. So I can show you those Padlets, and I can also talk, just to go back to the dashboard for a second, I can talk a little bit about Padlet workflow and how you can have anonymous conversations with your students, how you can create a Padlet, how you can get it to them using our system with Google Drive here, how you can have them participate in it, and also the sort of native workflow that's available within Padlet's interface so that you can have threaded Padlets so that you don't have a mess of Padlets everywhere, almost like having just a completely open Google Drive. So I hope that all makes sense. You can look forward to more information on the Professional Development Day, a little bit more of the mechanics and how-to of Padlets, if you can think of some possible uses for your classroom.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle. That was really helpful, and again, thanks for the reminder that there will be a follow-up work session on Tuesday. It's actually the first part of our Professional Development Day for all the Algonquin teachers who are watching, and we'll have devices, and our experts, Michelle and Brian will be in individual classrooms. Hopefully you can you know, start some sort of product that you might be able to use in your classroom. I just have a couple of follow-up comments, questions. One of the examples you showed, I think there was a brainstorm about body image, and I know that some teachers have been hesitant to use apps like Padlet where there is some anonymity, and they worry that sometimes students would post things that were inappropriate. So I think, you know, we need to sort of move to trusting our students, but also before you have an assignment like this, to talk about digital citizenship and to think about, just I think it's worth a conversation if there are teachers who are nervous and hesitant about doing things like that, because it's such an excellent, useful tool that you would hate to be too nervous about using it for fear that, something's going to go wrong. You sort of have to just dive in and trust. The other thing is, Michelle, if you could just take 1 minute and talk a little bit about that PLN you kept mentioning. I think it's wonderful that you have a PLN, but people might not know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the PLN it's a professional learning network, and so we've definitely talked about that amongst ourselves in the DLLs about using Twitter for that. And I use Twitter a little bit, but really I found amazing success with PLNs on Facebook, and so using Facebook groups. So I have 2 different Facebook groups that I'm part of nationwide with photography teachers and one for design teachers. And I will sometimes find, last night I got an answer from a question from a teacher who is teaching alongside a close friend of mine, which was really cool. And I've also I have one teacher that I was connected to through Facebook that he actually was on a travel grant from Wisconsin to come out and visit schools in Massachusetts. So he came out almost 2 years ago, and we talked all about teaching graphic design, design thinking, applying creativity to other disciplines, not just making art, but making change in the world. And so, sort of interspersed amongst my friends' pictures of their cats and dogs and children, I get these cool little updates that are like, this person's doing this project in California, or another person's doing this project in anywhere. They're all over the country. Virginia was the teacher that I talked to last night about Padlet. So I find that it just works incredibly well. And so the Facebook groups that I've found, I've been added to them by other people, as well as I've just searched for them and then asked to join them. People post in them. You can get notifications on your phone or by email, and then you can also manage your notifications, so you can get a summary, however you like to get your information and your updates, you can get them. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, great. Thank you. That's really valuable information. And one last thing, I really liked the fact that you sort of give your students a choice when they're doing projects. That's so important for us to reach all different types of learners and for them to have a choice in the way that they show you what they know. So that was great. All right, and last but not least, we are going to be hearing from one of our history teachers, Brian Kellett. And he's going to be talking to you about utilizing screencasts to both learn and disseminate information. So take it away, Brian.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yep, hear you just fine.
All right, so my talk is a little bit similar to Brian Kalnan's, my math counterpart, but it also, I think, takes a slightly different approach. They're both about creating videos and having students share kind of what goes on inside their heads a little bit more and present in a different way. But it certainly uses a different software to do that, and it also is kind of different stylistically and probably would lead to using it for different goals and different outcomes. So I'm going to share my screen in just a second. I'm going to talk about a Chrome app. So I am someone who is a big fan of web-based tools. I know that Brian talked about Explain Everything, which is an iPad-based tool, which obviously you can then upload videos to the web. And tablets are great. I think they're particularly good at the interactive element of it for the math classroom. In my classroom, I've had a lot of success with Chromebooks, and all a Chromebook is a kind of portable, lightweight laptop. So you can do what I'm going to do and show you on any laptop that has the Chrome web browser, and it's a free web app that you can download and install. And you just need to have a microphone to be able to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure you are able to see it. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm actually at the Screencastify website right now, which is just to give you a sense of what it's called. And then I've installed it from the Chrome Web Store. You just go to google.com and search the name of the app, Screencastify, and you can click a little button and it actually pops up right inside your Chrome app. And so what I've found is that it's an opportunity for students to, a screencast, to share whatever it is that is on your screen at the time along with your voice. Students can also add a video of themselves in like the bottom right hand corner. while they're talking about what's on the screen, but I think they prefer to just have the audio. What this tool does is it allows you to, as I said, record everything that is being seen. So I'm going to try something that's a little daring, is I'm going to record what I'm doing while we're recording what I'm doing. So we'll try to keep track of everything, but the app is very simple, and that's one of my favorite things about it, is that if I just click the box and then click start recording and tell it to record my whole desktop, then a little red dot's going to come up there that says it's recording what I'm saying. And if I wanted to show students maybe create a sort of a tutorial about how to do bibliographies, I could bounce around to different websites. And as I'm talking, everything that I'm saying is being recorded. Or if I wanted to show them an interesting website about types of history, or here's a website that I've utilized before, History Matters, or an online textbook, if I wanted to talk about a particular passage. Certainly it's a way to share resources, or maybe perhaps explain a lesson or explain a lecture without kind of doing your standard PowerPoint, and you can take the video and put it up online. All you have to do is hit the button again and tell it to stop, and it will bring you momentarily. You're still following everything I'm seeing? Desktop. And a little red dot's going to come up there that says it's recording. I'm just pausing that. This is the video I just made. It's that simple. So everything I just made has already automatically been recorded and then automatically saved to my Google Drive account. I'll play it again. Around to different websites. And as I'm talking, everything that I'm saying is being recorded. Or if I wanted to show them an interesting website about types of history, or here's a website. So this is a simple tool, but I think it has a lot of potential because of its simplicity. Students literally, once they set it up, and the setup process is about 2 minutes, they can basically walk through what it is that they're using to learn their information. And so I used this tool to have students share with me not just content. I would give them a topic or give them an assignment. We did a project on the 1920s, and I didn't just want them to share with me the information, stand up in front of the classroom and give me a slideshow, but I wanted them to share with me where they learned the information and what types of sources did they find on the web that helped them. So I'll just pop myself back up on the screen here for a second. So what I'm going to do is show you just a sample of what it is that I'm talking about. Students so often in this day and age, they revert right to the web and right to Google to start with their research process. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I want to make sure that they're going about it in the right way and they're using the sources in the right way. And if they're going to be finding sources on the web, I think it's really good for them to give insights to the teacher about what it is that their process is when they're evaluating a source, or when they're actually reading things that they're finding on the internet. What kind of website is it? So I had students do different projects on the 1920s, and I explained to them that they needed to set up multiple websites and multiple tabs within their browser, and then talk to me about the topic I assigned them while telling me how they learned about the material. So tell me not only what did you learn, but where did you learn it. So this particular student was assigned Prohibition, and she just made an 8-minute screencast where she talked a little bit about what she learned. So I'll play it. I'll play just 20 seconds or so.
Around drinking, and now they couldn't at all.
I believe I have to share my screen with you, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I caught myself there. There we go. All set?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
When I first heard about Prohibition, I went and looked up a picture of the 18th Amendment, which was the original thing that started Prohibition. And
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I've had that tab open for about 2 hours, so that may be a part of the process here. So I'll just go ahead and reload it and see what happens.
This is an issue we've had with playing videos from Google Drive here at our school. I don't know if other schools that's happening, but we actually did get a listen in at the beginning. It sounded great, so
well, I think I should have it back up. I think what I had the tab open for about 2 hours, and I think it just got lost in the memory there. But
I went and looked up a picture of the 18th Amendment, which was the original thing that started Prohibition. And I go and I read the actual article. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation
If we were to skip ahead, we'll notice that she starts to talk about different websites.
is up with the other information I find, so I know I can trust it. So I go and I scan for stuff that I don't already know. See, I already know this part at the beginning with all the Anti-Saloon League and the beginning of Prohibition.
So I felt that this student, are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay. I felt that that particular student did a nice job having resources ready that she wanted to talk about right off the bat. She was able to bounce around and you know, share with me her voice, share with me the website she was using. She talked a little bit about some other websites and how she went about the reading process of it. And the thing I like about using screencasts such as this and this particular software is it saves it right in Google Drive. It allows students to submit the actual video within Google Classroom itself, and the video is not public. It's not a YouTube video, so they don't have to worry about, you know, promoting, you know, whatever it is that they've made as a project around the world if they're not comfortable with that. It's simply contained within their own account, and it's just viewable by students in their classes, in the particular class. So I was able to get the students to agree to allow me to post the videos within our Google Classroom, which only students in the class can view. And so students were able to view each other's videos because I posted them all here, and you know, they were simply able to click and view and use that. And I actually gave students an essay prompt based off of the information that they learned. You know, ultimately, the question that I think is worth asking is, what benefit does this have over you know, your standard in-class presentation, where students are standing up in front of the classroom? And I would argue that it's not superior. It's simply different. And you know, just last period, I had my government students up in front of the class talking about different presidents and evaluating the presidencies of Bill Clinton and George Bush. And I thought about doing a screencast for that, but I decided not to. I think that there is value in both skills, and I think that's one of the things about utilizing technology like this is it allows us to do different things, but we also shouldn't lose sight of some of the more traditional things that we do. I think that students need to be comfortable recording their own voice and you know, putting themselves out there. And I think more and more they're already comfortable with that as they walk in the door with the world that they're living in. But you know, here we are recording something about recording things about putting those things on the web. So you know, it's kind of this thing that everybody needs to, I think, embrace a little bit. And the other thing is that students are able to have their peers' presentations available to them outside of school, so that if they miss school, they can look at it, or if they want to review it, they can look at it, and they can also see examples of their peers' work, you know, if they're looking for kind of modeling and how to grow from one another. So I think it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of different apps out there that do screencasting. I mean, that's one of them. You know, like Brian and Michelle were saying, and I think there are a lot of different tools out there that can do so many different things. It's really, I think, as an educator, our job to kind of hone in on certain ones that we think work best with our disciplines in our classrooms, and you know, hopefully just encourage students to develop problem-solving skills. And you know, some students, if the video crashed like what it just did for me, they would just kind of throw their arms up in the air and panic and not know what to do. But I think if we can model sort of how to just problem solve, reload it, turn it off, turn it on, simple things, those are things they need to learn too. So using technology in this realm is, I think, important as just when it comes to helping them grow in general. So that's it. I don't know if that's something anybody's going to find particularly useful, but hopefully it sheds some insight on what I do within my own classroom.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I know Brian would like to add something before we go, and then I still would like to add some comments about Brian Kellett's presentation.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Brian. That was really cool. One thing I think is really good about it is it requires the student to be organized ahead of time. You know, they, like you said, they have to have their sources or whatever they used up in their, you know, in their different tabs, and I think that's a really important skill. I'm sure in social studies, it's more of something that you would see than necessarily in a math class where you have those different sources. But I think that's really awesome. That was really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you, Brian. I think that that's one of the things that highlights the differences between the different approaches depending on the app. With Explain Everything, it's about creating that product, and you can go back and edit things, right? And you can crop it. And I think those are really actually vital skills that kids need to learn, is how to kind of make that product. And I think when I did it with the screencast, the kids kind of freaked out because they said, "Oh my God, 8 minutes in, I'm going to screw up, and then I'm going to have to do it over again." So I think they have to do both ways. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I think it was great, Brian. I have to say, Brian Kellett here at the high school has been sort of our Chromebook guru. He really has embraced the use of Chromebooks. So any of you who are interested in learning more about Chromebooks and other free apps and extensions that you can use with Chromebooks, he would be your go-to person. I really liked, Brian, when you talked about teachers now in this digital age trying to decide when do we use tech and when do we not use tech, right? So it's really important. I'd use tech as much as I possibly could, but I know sometimes it's just not appropriate, and that was an excellent point. So this has been hopefully beneficial to those of you who are listening. Hopefully you learned some things. I really appreciate Brian and Michelle joining us today and sharing some of their best practices. I know that they're doing an incredible job with their students, and the students really appreciate the use of technology. In a future Google Hangout on Air, I actually am going to have some students as presenters, and they are going to be talking about certain technologies that they like to use in the classroom, but also those technologies that help them to learn things better. So it's going to have a little bit of a different slant to it next time, but thank you for joining us. I'm going to try to share my screen now. You guys all did it so effectively, and I have some contact information for our three presenters today, and I know that they would be happy at any time to hear from you. If you're at Algonquin, you know where to find them, you know where their classes are, but if you're not at Algonquin, I know that they would be willing to email you with questions that you have. So I think that about wraps it up. How about just a quick goodbye from Brian Calnan, Michelle Shepard, and Brian Kellett. All right. Thanks, DLLs. You're awesome. And take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Julie.